Hello, and welcome back to The Biz. Today, I want to talk about something that I talk about all the time, which is beginning with the end in mind. It's a phrase that was coined to the work of Dr. Stephen Covey, and it's something that I talk about regularly with my advisors and even, in my personal life. A lot of times an advisor will come to me and say, hey, I'm thinking about this marketing campaign or something with practice management, maybe adding someone to the team or a staffing decision. And all the time, probably to the point where it gets annoying, my first question will be, so what are we trying to accomplish here? What's the end goal? What ultimately is the point of what we're doing? And I find it just a really helpful and productive way to start. Like as an example, let's say it's a marketing campaign and someone will have an idea, they'll think about something, they'll have heard an idea from somewhere, they read something. And I always ask, well, what are we trying to accomplish? Sometimes we do events and they are events, they're client appreciation events with the idea of just saying thank you to our clients. That's a lot different than a marketing event where we're looking to bring in new clients. Do the types of clients that we're looking to attract match, the broader goal of our practice? And those are things we'll talk about in future episodes about lifetime client value and who you should be targeting maybe. But I always find it a helpful place to start whether it's staffing. A lot of times, what we'll do is we'll try to solve the symptoms of a problem. An advisor will come and say, "Hey, I'm struggling with this work or that, or I don't have time to do this or that or the other thing," and that's fine. And those are oftentimes symptoms. And what happens is if we hire to solve the symptom, we might solve that problem, but not necessarily get us to where we ultimately want to go. And I think, it's not like every decision you have to think about, okay, what is my ultimate goal for the practice? But it really should be something you think about every day and something that, we're working toward when we make these decisions. I'll never forget, I had a advisor team I was working with. And I think one of the things about beginning with the end in mind is it's a really helpful tool when you're evaluating anything. Did this work? Was this a good idea? Should we do this again? Those types of things. Is this current staffing level productive and working? Is thinking about it through the lens of, are we getting to where we ultimately want to go? And as I was saying with that conversation, I had an advisor tell me that they brought in 21 what they would call C clients in the last year. And I'll never forget, my question was, is that a good thing? And the response was, I don't know. And, ultimately it probably wasn't a bad thing, but it was also probably not productive to where they ultimately wanted to get to going forward. Something that I also say is, if you don't know where you're going, you'll probably get there. And I really think that advisors, when they're making any really type of practice management decision, when they're reviewing, different activities that they've done, just think about it through the lens of ultimately where they're trying to head. And ultimately, that usually gives us a pretty good starting point as to, what the point of this activity is and, should we do it and how should we partake? Because if you do things, even if they're successful or they feel good or you're getting some good results, like if you stack things on top of each other with no real vision for the long term, you might end up somewhere that's okay, but it's guaranteed to be not really where you ultimately want to go. So that would be my advice to you. Thanks for tuning in. As always, if you have ideas or questions, please feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Have a great day.